It says we're live now. Hey, Lab Coat agents. Good to see you. Dale and Brian back for another cash call, and we're excited to talk to you guys today. Brian, were you here? You were here last week, weren't you?
I was. 2 weeks ago, my son graduated from high school, which makes me feel about 150. But yeah, we're back in the swing of things and ready to start going back to some kind of normalcy. So,
you said your son graduated college or high school?
High school.
High school. Good for you, man. Congratulations.
Yeah, thanks. It's scary. It's the last one, so we're borderlining on empty nesting right now. So it's always an interesting project.
Is that again like exciting and scary at the same time? You like look at each other and you're like, what do we do now?
Yeah. So what we're doing, as I mentioned earlier, is we're moving to another state. So we accept no boredom in our life, clearly. So,
yeah. So just increase your cost of living, right? From
Arkansas, that's part of the plan. Got to go sell some more real estate.
We need bigger bills to pay, honey.
Anyway, yeah. So today, what are we talking about? We're gonna cover how to handle referrals, and I think it's the majority of people watching this probably feel like, hey, I can handle referrals. That's easy. It's just a referral, right? So that's a real simple thing. But you know what? That's the kind of stuff that can really bite people is when they make assumptions. I do a little thing, and I don't want to spoil it for anyone who hasn't seen it, but it's a little training that I do, and maybe we can do something along the way on this call at some point in time about visual, auditory, and kinesthetic. But one of the things that I learned from that exercise personally when I've done it is when you make assumptions that really can mess things up, and you start making assumptions about where the lead came from or how to deal with it, or I've had this before, that is the perfect recipe to end up down going, hey, I got this great referral and they didn't work with me. So that's what we're going to cover today to make sure that you guys don't make some of the same mistakes that I've made, and I'm sure other people have made when working with referrals.
Oh yeah, you can absolutely screw that up. That's a huge problem, right? It's kind of like the short putt problem, right? You're like, this is totally easy, and then you flub it and you totally just mess it up. So yeah, we can talk about that. So let's talk about the intention of the lead, right? Obviously, usually when somebody gets referred to you, so as we, when we started out with the show, we talked about the intention of leads and went from the bottom up to the top, and now we're getting to the top, sort of just under you wanting to buy your own property yourself, right?
Yeah, exactly. That would be a good one, I suppose.
That would be the highest intent. So these people have very high intent, usually to do something, or at least they're getting their information gathered so that they can do something in the near future. And so, with obviously referrals are the best because basically you just have to make sure you don't screw it up. So, Brian, talk about not screwing it up.
So let's talk about, ultimately when you call somebody up, a couple of things that are very important with referrals. It's the number one thing that you say, reference the person who referred. So, hey, this is Brian Curtis with Curtis Realty Group. Dale Archdekin referred me to you. He said that you were looking to do X, Y, Z. So whatever that happens to be, whether looking to buy, looking to sell, looking to get a rental property, whatever it is, that is the number one thing, because the second I say your name, I have instant credibility, because they have no idea who Brian Curtis is, but they know exactly who Dale is because Dale's the person who referred him to me. So that's step one. And I know that seems overly simplistic, but I've seen people do it. Hey, this is Brian Curtis, Curtis Realty Group. I called because somebody told me you were interested in buying a house. Well, yeah, but I'm, all of a sudden it's taking away the number one best thing about this is that you have instant credibility with these people. So please, please, please tell them where you came from.
Absolutely. And, when you are referencing that person, what I typically recommend is you first want to understand the relationship between the referral and the person that's referring them over. If the referrer told you about what the relationship is, reference that and let them talk more about it, right? But if they haven't really told you, find out what it is. And Brian, we've talked about personality types a little bit here in the past, right? This is going to be a really excellent way for you to figure out what kind of personality type this person is by how they describe the relationship with the referring party, right? Because if they are an expressive or somebody who uses a lot of words or is emotion-based, they're going to tell you a lot about the relationship. They're going to tell you, they're going to describe emotions, they're going to describe feelings, things like that. Or if they're highly analytical, they're going to be very tight. They're going to be very cold or standoffish, or they're not going to be very expressive about that relationship or about the details. So that's one way that you can really start to understand who this lead is, so that as you get into process with them, it's going to make it easier for you to communicate the way they want you to communicate, and to be able to present things to them the way they need them. And you can conduct yourself the way you need to conduct yourself. For instance, do you need to be more touchy-feely, more sort of gushy with them, or do you need to be reserved and numbers oriented and not try to friend them as much in the case of a real analytical, right?
Absolutely. And so let's talk about something it's a reality. I love that you're focusing on that, because, let's try and, and I struggle with this. Full disclosure, I sometimes struggle communicating with people in the way that they want to be communicated with. So, it's a great thing to do. It helps in any relationship, especially as you're going, this is what you're doing. You're forging a new relationship. One of the things that I want people to be very, very careful of, though, is when I call Dale, let's just assume for the sake of our conversation that he's an expressive, but Dale's wife is not. So that's just one of the things to understand is that
around, actually.
Yeah, well, and that's, don't want to make any assumptions, sure. But ultimately, just because the person that you spoke to is an expressive or an analytical or whatever they happen to be, understand that there's a real good chance that if there's a second party involved, they're not. So, start with the initial contact, but you have to keep that in mind the second that you go and meet the second party, that, hey, because there's almost nothing worse than feeling left out. If I'm an expressive and my wife is an analytical who's not going to express much, and then the agent ignores her because she doesn't, pay, she's not as involved, then, maybe we look at a couple of houses and then she says, I really don't like Dale. He's not a type of guy that I want to work with. And it's not that, it's just that we made an assumption and we didn't include the other party. So, referrals, getting the appointment is relatively easy, obviously on that end, but please, the other thing about referrals to understand is that you need to actually treat these people better. They actually have a high expectation of who you are. You're not just some agent that they met on Zillow and they go, well, I'll deal with this guy because of it. They have an expectation that you are highly skilled, that you're going to pay attention, that you're going to make these people a priority. And so, in my opinion, it's easier to get the lead, but it's also easier to screw the lead up.
Yeah. And by the same extension, right, they do have high expectations. So even though it's your friend that referred them or somebody that don't show up in a baseball hat and cargo shorts, right? Show up as a professional, have a professional conversation, conduct yourself the same as you would with any lead, and conduct yourself in a professional manner. Don't get overly lulled into a sense of comfortability and like you're having beers on your neighbor's patio kind of scenario, when that's usually not the case, right? You're still going to be professional. You can be warm. You can be engaging. You can be excited about what they're going to do. You can be excited to work with them, but still present yourself in a professional manner, because they're hiring you to do a professional job for them and they're measuring you against that. And I guarantee, listen, the one thing everybody needs to understand is there are some people out there who just really enjoy referring other people, right? Those are the relationship people. Those are the networking kind of people. They're like, oh, I just met an electrician yesterday. You need to get your house wired. Call this guy. I don't know anything about him, but I met him, right? Then there's the other people on the other end of the spectrum who very much guard any kind of putting their name on somebody, right? Putting that stamp on there. And you better represent them to a very high degree, because in some part they are imparting sort of their word and their, honor on you. And you need to make sure that you're representing that properly. So just keep that in mind.
Yeah, and I can tell you right now, personally, Dale, I fall into the category of, if I refer that person, I take it personally if that person doesn't do a good job. So, we've got for example, a preferred vendor list of people that we refer our clients to. And when I refer people to those people, I have an expectation that those people are going to treat my clients the same way that they would treat me. And, and that's a really important thing to understand. You are actually held to a higher standard as an agent when you get a referral than you are held to arguably than when you generate that lead yourself. So a couple other things I want to talk about is the presentation process. And this is something that I've personally messed up, and I'm going to guess I'm not the only person who has done it. It comes back to that thing I said about assumptions, is I've gone in and not necessarily gone through my entire presentation. So for example, in a listing presentation, Bob said that, my friend Bob said you wanted to list your house with me. So I brought the paperwork, and do you have any questions? Well, that's not how I do a listing presentation. I have an 8-step process from shaking your hand all the way to the paperwork. And here's the thing, those people deserve, not want, but they deserve the same exact from A to Z presentation that I would give to a person who I've never met. And again, I've seen people do that. They just go in there and they just start, pretending like it's their best friend. This is not your friend. This is a friend of a friend, or this is an acquaintance of a friend. So do your entire presentation as if these people, they're actually interviewing you. Because by the way, one of the things I found out is sometimes they're actually interviewing us, right? Have you had that experience as well, Dale?
Yes, I have. Where you waltz in and you're like, oh, I got this. What? I can't lose. I can't lose, right? You're Absolutely. Like, I'm the man. I'm going to sell your house. You shortcut some of your marketing plan because who cares about that part, right? You kind of breeze over the seller closing cost estimate. You're like, it'll be great. You'll love it. You're going to walk out here with a big check. That's wonderful. Okay, great. So all we need to do is sign the paperwork now. And they're like, that's great, Dale. We'll definitely take what you've said under consideration. And we're going to be meeting with a few other agents. And you're like, wait a minute. That's not the way this is supposed to go. And then you're like, can I do this over again? Can I do it real professional this time? Like I really need to sell you like I would an expired or a FSBO.
Right. And no, I will say this. One of the things that I would do different with a referral is I might say something like, I'm going to go, I still have them do a walkthrough with me on a listing presentation, walk me through your house. After that, I go over the CMA. But when I get to my marketing piece, one of the things I will ask is, guys, generally speaking, I go over marketing at this point in time. I want to show you what we do from A to Z. That being said, if you're not interested in that, if you're just, want to sign the paperwork, I'm okay with that. So I give them the option at that point in time because some people are. And again, this is one of those things that I can't be in every room to tell you exactly when you should do that or when you shouldn't do that, but it is an option. And I sat across from a guy one time and I could tell, and I looked over at him, I don't remember even what his name was, but I said, it feels like you're not interested in what I'm saying, but you do want to list your house. Do you just want to do the paperwork? He's like, yes, I just want to do the paperwork. And that's okay.
That's great, Brian. People should do that with every listing appointment.
And that's true. I mean, absolutely. You should be in there pay attention to the room. I've heard people say it all the time. It's like, read the room. This guy's bored out of his mind. He already wants to list his house. Why am I boring him with information? And I should get that probably just as much as anybody else. My high D kicks in and I'm like, don't tell me all the details. Just tell me where to sign. Let's get this process going. I got other stuff to do. So, that's about read the room. But again, please understand that it's not about taking a shortcut. It's about doing what the client wants in that scenario. It's not about trying to get out of the listing presentation quicker.
No, definitely not a shortcut. And honestly, like I said, people should do that at every listing appointment because of exactly what you said. If I had to guess, right, because 99% of statistics are made up, but if I had to guess, I'd say somewhere between 60 to 70% of the time that you either meet with a buyer or you meet with a seller, they've already decided that they're going to work with you as long as you don't screw it up, right? As long as you don't do something stupid when you talk to them. And that's why it can be so difficult for us to set appointments with people, especially when those leads are farther out, because whenever we're talking to a lead, they're normally putting your filter of your question of, can we meet, through the filter of, they want me to hire them. That's what they hear, right? And so that's why a lot of times it's really difficult for us to get those appointments set because they don't hear, let me come to your house and talk about how you can get it ready for market or make more money on it. What they hear is decide to hire me, ergo let me come to your house, right? Likewise with a buyer agent, you're like, hey, come to my office, we can sit down and talk. What they hear is decide to hire me and work with me as an agent. and then come sign the paperwork at my office. That's what they hear. And that's why they resist us so much.
Absolutely. And we've got to understand and listen to what they're saying, most of the time. And, so let's talk about that real quick. If you call a referral and they say, hey, we're not ready, where are you going with that? Because a lot of times, it's funny. I love to refer people. I don't know what it is about it that really but maybe makes me feel good or important, or I don't know, who knows? That's not really important. There's a shrink show for that I need to be on. But nonetheless, what I'm saying is I really do. I want to help people, and I want people to have a good experience, and I want them to associate that with me. But that being said, sometimes, I'll hear somebody, hey, I need a good electrician. Great, I got a good electrician. The same thing happens sometimes when people had a good experience. So someone had a great experience working with me, and their friend said, yeah, we're thinking about buying a house, or we're thinking about selling our house. And someone says, oh, great, I'm going to have Brian call you. And so they get excited because they're a person like me who likes to refer people. And I call that person up, and they're like, really not there yet. So understand that doesn't mean that we still can't try and help these people. I completely understand you're not ready to sell your house yet, but for me, it's really important to get that process started significantly before you're ready to go. So out of curiosity, in a perfect world, when would you like to sell your house? So, just flipping it over so that they can talk about, hey, we're 6 months out, we're 12 months out, whatever the case may be, but you want to continue to have that relationship, because here's where we mess the referrals up more than anything else, in my opinion. When that person's not ready and then we don't follow up with them, they go to dinner with their buddy and they say, hey, did Brian ever call you? Yeah, he called me, but he was going to follow up with me in 3 or 4 months and he didn't. And that is almost worse than screwing up at the appointment, because now you're just a guy who's not responsible. You're a guy who didn't follow up, and people really, really, really dislike that. So that is so important.
That brings up another point, Brian. Actually, when you get a referral, you actually have two parties to follow up with, right? You have Absolutely. The people that were referred to you, and you absolutely have to keep the referrer informed, because if you don't give them the feedback, they're going to be less likely to refer you in the future, only because they don't know what's going on with it, right? One is they don't know what's going on, and they don't know whether you made contact. They don't know whether you actually did what needed to be done and whether you represented them positively or not. So you got to get back to them and let them know that stuff. Even if it's an instance where somebody's not ready, just report back to them. Hey, I reached out to them. They sound like really great people. They said that they'd probably be ready closer to whatever time, and I'm going to be following up with them again. I really appreciate you connecting us.
Right. And let's follow up with another thing that's important there. Yes, these people are referring them to you, and they really are trying to get their client to be happy and feel like they have a friend, or whatever the case may be happy. So, for example, if Dale's referring somebody to me, or Dale's wife's referring something to me, one of the benefits of Dale referring that to me is that he expects to get a paycheck. And let's just be honest, that's one of the reasons that we make referrals. That's why I do out-of-state referrals. Partially it's because I want my client to be taken care of, but partially because I like the $2,000 referral fee, and that's okay. There's nothing wrong with that. But with that in mind, here's one of the things that I've been irritated about in the past. When I have to follow up with Dale and say, hey, Dale, what happened with that? Or I have to follow up with Dale and say, hey, I know you were working with Bob, but I never got that form. So have a standardized form and be the person who initiates that. Hey, I want to make sure that when we close this transaction, you get your paycheck. Why? Because now Dale's like, yeah, I want to refer more stuff to Brian, because every time Brian stays on top of it, fills out some paperwork, gets brokerage sent over, gets a 1099 sent over. So it looks like Brian is ready to take my referrals and give me my paycheck. And again, that's not the only reason that we're referring people, but it's part of it. Let's face it. I've sold their person's house and they're moving to Philadelphia. Well, you know what? I want to get my referral fee out of it. And by the way, there's nothing wrong with that.
Yeah, absolutely. That's good. Anything else about those, the strategic parts of a referral, or can we talk about a couple of things I want to throw in, like some scripting and, once we get with the referral, or once we're talking to them?
I feel like we covered it. Be responsible, be responsive, feedback for the person who referred you. Because again, if that person goes to dinner and say, oh yeah, Brian called me yesterday, he said that, this and this and this is going on, and it just makes you look professional. So feedback to the referrer.
Good. Excellent. So what I wanted to point out, and this is not necessarily just referral specific, but I wanted to point out some scripting that everybody should be using when they're talking to any lead, frankly. And you should definitely be using it with the referral business, because even though you know, like we talked about, don't assume that you're going to get, like, don't let your assumption of how easy it is and that it's in the bag prevent you from being professional, prevent you from showing up and doing a great job. And don't ever let it make you think that you can't lose it. Okay. So as long as we're thinking in that vein, there's some things that you want, pieces that you want to make sure that you communicate with somebody. And this is something that I've been working on with several of our clients, which is going through the process of asking somebody what's important about the agent they hire, right? What's important to you about the agent you work with to buy your next home? What's important about the agent you work with to sell your home, right? Even though this is a referral and you think it's in the bag and you think all you have to do is show up and get the paperwork signed, still ask these questions, okay? Because what often happens with this chat thing is exploding over here. Can you hear that?
I can.
Okay.
Turn it off.
Why do I turn it off? I don't know how to turn it off. People are messaging me on Facebook. Anyway, when you asking them what's important, what happens is a lot of salespeople, they get like this salesperson-itis, right? They'll show up and they'll be like, hey, this is what I want to sell you. This is what I'm great at. This is what I do. This is why I'm amazing. This is why you should choose me, right? Instead of doing what they should do, which is, hey, what would you like to buy? What are you looking for in an agent? What is important to you? How are you going to decide that that agent is the right person to work with, right? Do it that way around. Get them to tell you, and then you just sell them back what they told you they want. That's easy.
Right. So what most agents are doing, they don't do that. And what they do is they close objections that don't exist. And by the way, when you close objections that don't exist, you know what you do? You create objections. So it's kind of an interesting thing. You're like, well, this must be important to you. And they start telling them like, well, I never even thought about that. Well, now I'm not interested.
Oh,
so
now you gave me something to think about. Now I got to wait.
Right. Now all you're doing is creating doubt in people's brains. Focus on what's important to them. And that's really, you know, sales 101 to me is what's important to the client instead of what's important to me. Because what's important to me is that we close. What's important to the client is what I need to do so I can get what I want. So this is, to me, one of my favorite questions. And here's what the thing that's interesting for anyone who's listening. I want to say that a lot of agents, when they're sitting in a listing presentation, ask what you're looking for in a real estate agent. Would you agree with that, Dale? But flip that to a buy side.
Yeah.
How many people, when they're working with buyers, ask them what they're looking for in a real estate agent?
Never.
And I can tell you that we taught this to our team starting about 1.5 years ago. And I don't even remember, I'll be honest, it wasn't something that I did on a regular basis when I actively worked with buyers. But for some reason, it came to me and I said, we need to start asking this question. I'll tell a quick story. We had an agent who, this is before they even met that person. So you're talking about scripting. They actually asked them on the phone, once they got them on the phone, hey, by the way, what are you looking for in an agent? What that person's response was, you know, I'm not 100% sure. Let me think about that. But you know what? I think I'm going to work with you. I've talked to 4 or 5 other agents, and none of them even bothered to ask me what I was looking for in an agent. And we ended up working with that person because of that question. What are you looking for in a real estate agent? Or, you know, what can I do to best serve you? Basically, take it away from you and put it on them. And sometimes they don't, you know what? I don't know, but they still appreciate the question. So love, love, love that question.
Yeah. Huge, hugely important. That's what we teach all the time. I say, sell them what they want to buy. You got to find out what do they want to buy and then sell it to them. And the problem is that we sell houses, right? So people get confused and they're like, oh, well, they want to buy a house. No, that's not what I'm talking about. Are they buying peace of mind? Are they buying safety? Are they buying a sense of themselves? Are they buying a great deal? Are they buying saving money? Are they buying a friend? Are they buying trust? Like, what are they buying? What are they buying? And I want to sell it to them.
Absolutely. I'm a big Tony Robbins guy, and he talks about 6 needs that people have. So, people want certainty. They want uncertainty, believe it or not. So, what we're trying to do is focus on what those people's needs are so that we can meet them. Because when you're meeting someone's needs as a salesperson, that's how they feel good. When I'm buying something and someone meets my needs, then I feel like it was a comfortable process. When I've bought something and I'm not sure that my needs have been met, it's kind of like every single time I've ever bought a car. For some reason, I don't have that skill set, but every single time I buy a car, I'm like, did I just get screwed? I don't know if I got screwed. I feel like I might have gotten screwed. And every single time that I've bought a car, I've had that feeling. So
I just assume when I buy a car, I got screwed.
Right. So we don't want people to walk away from a real estate transaction feeling like, well, I might have gotten screwed there, or I might not have had the best agent. So, we have to spend that time on the front end, making sure that they feel comfortable with us. People do business with people they know, they like, and they trust. We don't know them yet, but we can get them to like us and trust us and feel like they know us.
Yeah, absolutely. And then, as always, right, we have to defend against the other agents out there, even though it is a referral, right? So they're going to be out there even if you talk to them and everything sounds great, whether they start working with you now or they're going to do it later, Zillow is still out there. Realtor.com is still out there. Every agent in the market who has a website is still out there, right? Google's still running ads on TV. So you're going to have to let them know that you have access to everything that they could possibly want to have to their heart's desire, and you're going to be finding other things out there they can't find on the internet. If they find anything, bring it to you, let you know about it, and just give them the word. Like, if you ask, hey, would you like to work with me? I think I'd really like to work with you guys. You sound great. I'm so glad they referred us together. Would you like to work with me? Get a verbal commitment or a paper commitment, and then just say, great. Now, all you need to do, if you walk into an open house, you walk into a builder's, model home, whatever you do, just let them know that you're working with me. That's it, right? Close the door behind you.
Yeah, and here's the thing you can do too. I'm not a huge card person because it feels a little bit 10 years ago. But, one of the things I heard is a great thing. Give somebody 10 of your cards. Guys, these are so in case you want to go to an open house, you can just hand them my card. And you literally have eliminated that possibility. If you're handing me somebody's card, it feels like we're in a committed relationship that we're not going to bail out of that. So I love that idea. I stole it from somebody. I'm not sure who. It's not mine, but I'm not afraid to steal somebody's stuff. So it just, gives them that. Let's talk FSBOs real quick too, because that is something that people don't understand. So even this referring person, I'm going to say, by the way, if you see any property that's for sale by owner, I am happy to represent you in that. And by the way, don't worry about my fee. I'll negotiate that with the seller. My fee is still, you still don't have to pay any fee whatsoever to work with me as a buyer's agent. So, let me do all the work for you. Let me make sure the contracts are right. There's a lot of things that go into for sale by owner that a lot of people don't know. There's some great for sale by owners, but there's also for sale by owners who don't know what they're doing, and you can be very unprotected. So again, won't cost you any money. If you see it for sale by owner, I'll get on the phone and call them. I'll set up the appointment. I'll handle everything for you. So.
Perfect. That sounds good. Let's see. Is there anything else out of the ordinary or anything that we need to cover for referral leads, do you think?
I think we did a pretty comprehensive job of what's going on with it. Again, I'll just recap for a while. Professionalism, number one thing. I would argue that you even have to be more professional than a regular person. Treat them as if they don't know anything special. Make sure that you're treating them exactly the same as how they do. Read the room and then educate them, because ultimately at the end of the day, education is what people are looking for. That's why they're hiring us. I always feel like any idiot can open a door, any idiot can put a sign in the yard. Give these people an actual value for what you're doing for working with you.
Yeah, absolutely. Good point, man. Because if all we're doing is opening doors, there's an app for that.
Exactly. We're going out of business.
Going out of business. Let's not end on that. We're not going out of business. They need us. We provide Absolutely. A valuable resource. So make sure that you're providing that valuable guidance, education, and resource to your clients, and you will always make a lot of money.
Absolutely.
Great. Thanks for joining us for Cash Call today, everybody. Good to see all of you that joined us today, and can't wait to see you next week.
Awesome. Look forward to seeing everybody. Thanks, Dale.
Okay, I think we're off the live now.
We're off of Facebook. Okay.
Yeah. So let me see. I'm watching over here. I want to see if it ends. There's a weird delay over here. There it is. And good. Okay, we're done. Just want to make sure that like it's not recording this while we're sitting here. Cool, man. Man, we're gonna have to plan out some more shows, Brian.
Yeah, I'm thinking that we should go into some more technique stuff, like, and we can talk about this, but like some objection handling stuff, I don't know, we could do some presuppositions, some future casting, just some of those techniques that we can do. And I think it's one per show. I don't think we need to cover, 3 or 4 things in one show. Like if we're going to do embedded commands, I think that's a show. I think adverb presuppositions is a show. I feel like objection handling is a show. Those type of things.
So I don't know those like neurolinguistic stuff that well. I did take language of sales a long ass time ago, but I don't remember all that stuff. What I do have though, and we can do them, so it sounds like you're good at them. Maybe you take the lead on some of those and I can trail along. And I have some techniques that are specific, like proprietary, that I teach. That I can teach, and you can follow along there too. So I think maybe we can mix them up.
Perfect. I think that's a great idea. And honestly, I stole the majority of the stuff that I'm talking about from Language of Sales, but Joel Rico actually left KW, and they have a different thing, and he's got a different thing. So and by the way, I'm pretty sure all that stuff was ripped off from Tom Ferry anyway. So
let's see. Did you? I just thought it was too technical, like the Joel Rico stuff. It was great. It's like, hey, here's how to do fucking calculus. Here's all the ways to do calculus. And you're like, I don't fucking remember that. I mean, I can barely do algebra, dude.
So some of the stuff is pretty high-end stuff. I agree. And I've broken it down into a simpler way to teach it to my team. And, so like when I do embedded commands, I don't sit there and say, okay, everybody, but what I do is at the end of it, and what I would tell our show is pick 5 embedded commands. You don't have to know how to all of a sudden off the fly go, how do I do an embedded command? Because if you do that, you'll screw it up. But if you have 5 embedded commands that you always can just call on like that, basically a script, then you won't screw that up and it won't sound dumb, because once again, it's something you've done hundreds of times. So that's what I do with that type of stuff. The other stuff is conceptual, and it's talking about assumptive language and things like that. But we can brainstorm all that stuff on there. But what time on Monday do you have available?
I have 2:30.
What's that?
I have 2:30. That would be the best for me.
2:30, so that'd be 1:30 my time. Perfect. I've got you on my schedule. You want to send me an invite?
Will do.
Awesome. All right. Well, I will plan on talking to you on Monday at 1:30 my time, 2:30 your time, and awesome.
Cool. And then, sorry to bug you, buddy, but when do you think you could do that video for?
Friday. I've got it on my schedule for Friday at 10 a.m.
Awesome. Sounds good, man. Well, good luck finding a rental place.
We're almost there. We put in an application. I always got to go through the process. It's funny. It's harder to be a renter than I remember. I haven't been a renter in, I don't know, a lot of years. So
is it difficult to like explain your story since you're not like a 23-year-old looking for an apartment?
Well, it's difficult for people to say, so you're a real estate agent, you're moving here, how are you going to pay your bills? Oh. That's the part that's been a little bit challenging to explain to people. So
even think about that. So short answer, in one sentence, how are you going to do that?
So my brokerage is exactly the same. I don't actively sell in Arkansas anyway, and I'm also going to be back there, 1 month a week or 1 week a month to make sure everything's going on. I've got a manager, so basically it's a passive income stream.
Oh, okay. So the business doesn't stop just because you're moving. I thought you were still in production. I didn't know that you weren't in production.
I've sold 7 houses this year, so I guess technically I'm in production, but that didn't really. Yeah, it didn't pay my bills, I promise. They were extras. So, cool. And all those people were referrals or past clients. And so basically I still would sell all those people. It's just that I would sell them and take less commission. But again, it really doesn't change my income significantly.
Very, very cool, man. That's excellent. All right, Brian.
Have a good time.
All right. Bye.
Bye.